jobs.
Hey everybody, so I am here with Lisa Leith, one of my good friends that is the president of Leith HR Group and founder of Work Talk. Thank you, Lisa, for coming today. We appreciate this. And many people in the sports industry do not have the privilege that I do to know you. So tell us a little bit about your companies, about yourself, what the vision is, and what you do.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Again, my name's Lisa, and I'm the president of Leith HR Group. We're basically human resources experts. So for companies or organizations that maybe don't have an HR manager, or they've got somebody in charge of HR that really doesn't know a whole lot about HR and they kind of got stuck with it, we step in and help folks run their HR department on usually a fractional basis, so kind of like a part-time outsourced basis. And we do everything from helping to recruit, onboard employees, do legal terminations. We train supervisors on how to be great supervisors. We implement like performance management systems. So think like one-on-ones or check-ins or quarterly reviews and goal alignment. We help with that. And compliance things like handbook and policy updates.
That's awesome. So as we navigate these, for lack of a better term, uncharted waters, because Lisa and you and I were talking about this earlier, there's about to be a really big influx, we hope, in the sports world and in general, in terms of people hiring, people looking to move to different locations, different jobs, and so forth, especially when everything starts to open up in the baseball world. So how would you suggest for somebody, especially that hasn't been in the job market for decades, how would you suggest that they even start the job hunt, just from your expertise?
So I usually tell people to start on LinkedIn. If you haven't updated your LinkedIn profile in a while, it's basically your on-demand resume. What I love about the LinkedIn profile is, you get to actually get endorsements from people who have worked with you before. So you can ask your old colleagues or current colleagues to go in and endorse you for certain skills. So if it's sales, people can endorse you. If it's marketing, people can endorse you. So, I mean, there's thousands of skills you can be endorsed for on LinkedIn. Ask people that you respect to go out and endorse you. It takes them 10 seconds, and you can send them a link to do that. Make sure your LinkedIn profile is complete, so you can put all of your previous work experiences on there and treat it like a resume, because the first thing that hiring managers do nowadays is Google you. As many times as I've begged and pleaded with hiring managers not to do that, because you could probably come across the wrong Lisa Leith or Allison Smith. You have a unique name, but people will Google you. So make sure the LinkedIn profile is complete, because that's the first thing that people are going to check out. The second thing people are going to check out are your social media channels. So make sure that your privacy settings are set to, whatever you think is appropriate. So, like pictures from the beach 20 years ago, or like your ex-boyfriends or girlfriends probably should come down as far as like public pictures. So just make sure that your settings are appropriate for being in the job market, because recruiters will go and look at your social media pages. And so you don't want to be, thrown out of the mix because of something you did when you were in college. Let's see. I think also, let's go back to LinkedIn for a second. If you haven't noticed, there is basically a toggle switch that shows recruiters that you're open for new opportunities. So it's really important that you have that selected, because when recruiters pay an extra amount to use LinkedIn to search people's profiles using specific keywords and stuff, and you will get priority in a recruiter's list of folks to reach out to if you say that you are open to new opportunities on LinkedIn. So make sure you do that. Also, Indeed seems to be the big place for hiring managers to go, and they have a resume search function for people like me, HR people, and hiring managers. And so make sure that your resume is uploaded on Indeed so that recruiters and HR people and hiring managers can find your resume on Indeed. The default switch for people like me, HR, is that it shows me people who have updated their resume in the last month first, unless I select show me all resumes. So by default, I'm seeing people who have recently updated their resumes. So if you haven't been on Indeed lately, get your updated resume on Indeed. Let's see. And
Talk
then
a
just
little bit.
expand your, oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, talk a little bit more about the resume. You know, especially for they change every single year and what people are looking for and how to structure them and so forth. What would you suggest if I'm trying to tell my story of what I've done and how and who I am as an employee? Would you start with experience or would you start with achievements?
I don't think it matters too much. I mean, people always ask me like, "Oh, I'm having a hard time getting it on one page." Well, if you've worked for 20 years, there's no way that you can get everything on one page. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
So don't worry about keeping it on one page, but I do think it is important to have a section, especially if you've been working for 7, 10, 20 more years, to have like a career highlights section, which really calls out, you know, the 3 or 5 things that if you were stuck in the elevator with the CEO of the company you want to go work for, that you know, could roll off your tongue and tell them that are extremely impressive things about you. And I know sometimes it's hard to boil it down to just a couple of things because, you know, if you've had a great career, that it's a little bit humbling to boil it down. But I would say a career highlights section is extremely important. Knowing, you know, a little bit about your profile. So I always ask people like, if you've ever gotten an opportunity to do like a self-awareness assessment, for instance, a DISC, or some kind of talent profile, Myers-Briggs, Forte, whatever you may have done, go ahead and pull that out again and pull it off the shelf and take a look at what were some of the statements that you really, truly agreed with, or statements that resonated with you from that profile or assessment, and go ahead and like start to elaborate, start to kind of like spitball on some of those statements, and that's a great place to describe who you are.
Mhm.
Go back to that self-assessment and self-awareness assessment and try to create basically like a profile statement to go ahead and put under your name on the resume. But the other thing too is on the resume under your name, like if you're applying for a sales manager position, put sales manager under your name. If you're applying for a marketing director position, put, you know, Allison Smith, marketing director, on your resume. That way it's just like, you know, subconsciously I'm thinking, oh, okay, this person is a marketing director. And so psychologically, the person looking at your resume is going to be in tune and want to spend time on it. You know, I have a love-hate relationship with putting a picture on a resume. They do it all the time in Europe, but like it's becoming more common here. Um, it mostly turns me off, but you know, if you think it looks cool on, you know, just from like a formatting perspective, then totally go for it. And I've done that before, and I'm actually going to show you a really cool tool to use for creating a resume that really pops. And when I help people with resumes, this is a tool that I use. Is it okay if I share my screen for a second?
Yep.
Okay.
I think I set it up so you can do that.
I'm going to show you this. See all windows. Here we go. So have you ever heard of Canva? It's a
Yeah.
marketing, okay, it's a free marketing tool. And what I would say is if you are kind of sick of your old stale resume, you know, some of these purple ones are not going to be for everybody, right? But there are really cool resume templates out there on Canva for free that once you've got, you know, the functionality of your resume, you've got all the components and you've written all the cool things that you've done, your achievements and your career highlights, then go ahead and copy and paste and plug them into a really nice template here. I like this Jonathan Patterson one. If you want a picture, this is kind of a cool one. You want one that really stands out, this black one. But it's just a resource for you guys. I know, you know, Word has also done a nice job loading in some templates, but I really think the Canva templates look a lot cooler.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate that. I will absolutely also put a link in the blog directly to Canva for people that haven't seen it and haven't done or used it yet. Most people, I think, have, but if there's somebody that haven't really played around with it or haven't had a need to, I think that's a great insight. I appreciate it. So
Sure.
the
The
other
other thing
thing,
I was going to tell you, the other thing on the resume that people, when people, my friends send me their resumes, they're like, will you just look at my resume? Um, the one thing that I always, call them and I'm like, hey, what, why do I care? So all the bullets underneath your job. Okay. So think about your current job. I manage 12 people. Okay. Why do I care as a hiring manager? Okay, I manage 12 people, some in sales, some in marketing, and we increased sales by 30% in the last 12 months. Every single team member on my team, like, answer the question, so what? After every bullet point on your resume. And usually that means that, you as an applicant need to describe size and scope of your role. So, what was your budget, oversight? Um, some key achievements as it relates to growth or dollars, or even if you're not growing and you were, declining, how did you handle, what were some actions you took to appropriately handle, even downsizing? So I always ask people, so what? And just think about that, make me care.
no, that's a good, I like that. You always want to make sure to tell your full story because I mean it's black and white in front of you, but it doesn't always show all the gray and the reason of what you've done and all your true achievements and so forth. But speaking of achievements, super awesome, excited about last year you were 40 under 40 and this year your awesome husband is a 40 under 40 recipient. So besides achieving phenomenal things during COVID, what are some other things that you've done to just keep yourself sane during this last 6 months?
Well, if we're being
Besides
honest,
Baby Shark with the kids.
yeah, well, I mean, the silver lining in all this is spending more time with my kids. I have two girls, which has been really, really nice, and watching them get along better has actually kept me sane. I think, living by the beach doesn't hurt. And, just spending as much time outside as absolutely possible. I love being in the sun. I don't know what I'm going to do when summer's over.
I know. We'll see. The way everything's going with this heat wave, though, I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon. So finally, what do as somebody, let's say I apply for a job with you and I'm sending over my resume. We've had our first level of a conversation, whether it's just an initial "who are you," "what is it" over the phone, get to know you. What is an appropriate level of follow-up for somebody? Is it phone calls? Is it thank you notes? Is it emails? In your opinion, professionally, what's the appropriate next step?
I think a thank you note is always welcomed, and I think email is completely appropriate. I also think that, following up to understand timeline as far as, what they anticipate when they're going to make the hire, I think that's appropriate a week later. And then maybe, if you still haven't heard anything, like 3 weeks later, follow up again. I think, phone call is fine, but nobody picks their phone up anymore. But I might send an email after I leave a voicemail, like, hey, I tried to reach out and just, get a beat, let you know I'm still interested, get a beat on the timeline. But I'm sending a follow-up email just in case you're not in the office. So I think, hitting them from a couple of different angles is fine. I wouldn't do it any more than like once a week. And, sometimes it's nice too when people say, would it be okay with you if I followed up at the end of an interview? Would it be okay with you if I followed up in a week or two if I haven't heard from you? And of course, yes, definitely follow up with me. So don't leave the interview until you say, would it be okay if I follow up with you? And ask them what their timeline is right there, then and there in the interview as well.
No, those are great. I appreciate it. And we will more than likely reach out again and see if you have, and because I'm sure you have a bazillion different insights with all of your background in history too. And I will put a link up so that people can connect to you, Lisa, also in case they have any additional questions. And if somebody is a hiring manager and just is ridiculously overwhelmed, maybe that's something that Lisa can help with her business and some of her employees as well. So, but most importantly, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate
Thank you
all
for
of your
having me.
insight.
This is an awesome resource for people. Thank you for doing it.
No problem.